Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I thought today we'd have a look at my Paphiopedilums. Now, I got one, the blackjack, on a spur of the moment thing on a visit to Burnham's, where I can't visit Burnham's without buying some things to support the actual nursery. It is the last decent nursery we've got in this country, and obviously, you know, purchasing the goods is a way of keeping it going. So I took a look at this plant and I just decided to get it. So that's how I got the first one. And then it's just expanded a bit since then, on the grounds that they seem to be doing okay. Now, Paphs did not grow well at the other place. I lost quite a lot, including some really nice hybrids, gorgeous blooms and things. But yeah, I mean, once they're gone, and it seems almost impossible to see them again. A lot of them did come from private sellers in the EU. Well, that market's lost to me now, so they're gone. There is a Paph specialist in this country, but prices are extortionate, even for your basic sort of Paphs that aren't even rare or anything. Anyway, I've got half a dozen. I don't plan on getting loads. I'd like to see how these do for a year or so, at least. Yeah? So this is their first winter. Let's make sure they all come out the other end first. I mean, there's one of these that's classed as cool to cold and grows in cloud forests. You know, well, that should do all right in here, shouldn't it? But I was looking up each of those basically today to just find out. A lot of Paph species we're on about now. It's not so easy to tell with the more complex hybrids what's going on. But there's a fair few of the species grow on sort of limestone outcrops. And they object quite a lot to, you know, to media that's going off. In other words, it's becoming acidic, and that's just a no-no for a fair old few. I won't say all. I mean, I've got one here that is an epiphyte, very, very rarely found on rocks, but it grows in forks on trees where there is humus. So where there's dead leaf litter and stuff like that. Well, there's no way that's an alkaline base. That's an acidic base. So that one's not one of those that likes an alkaline mix. Because a lot of people add lime and things like that to their Paph pots to actually keep the pH up, you know. Well, that one wouldn't like that, whereas some of the others might love it. So it does pay to do a little bit of looking to see what you've got. But with a complex hybrid, you probably won't get anywhere, because trying to tie it back to individual species, it's either not possible or might not gain you much anyway. So things like the blackjack, I don't know how many species went into that. Probably, well, it's all going to go back to 2 originally, isn't it? But you know what I mean. Anyway, let's have a look. This one is classed as a clump forming Paph. It actually grows like you see it here. In other words, it produces lots of shoots all attached. Now, there's no sign of any buds. This one is growing, but I'm not too happy about the pale coloured leaves. And I haven't got, I mean, I've repotted this one, but I don't see extensive root growth at all. In fact, I don't see any. So, we haven't got an extensive root system. We have very slow growth and some very pale coloured leaves. But I have noticed that the leaves that are relatively new, in other words, they may well have grown here, are darker in colour. So maybe we're doing a bit better with that one. Now that one is Helvetia. That's actually a primary cross. So again, you know, when you're thinking of looking up, you know, what sort of temperature range is and, you know, all that sort of thing, where you've got a primary cross, you're onto a winner, because you've only got 2 to look up. Yeah? So, you know, you could do okay. The problem is when you look it up and you get two opposites, like one's a cold grower and one's a warm grower. That doesn't help, does it? Well, you just go down the middle. That's all you can do. Right, let's have a look at this one then. Now this one has done quite a bit of flowering. Old flower spikes. The only reason I got this really was that it looked a good plant and it had quite a few new growths that haven't bloomed yet. So it didn't seem like a bad bet. When when you've got a path and you see a growth like this, you think, well, it's okay. It's got a growth that could bloom in the future. And I was right. We've got a bud here. So this growth here is going to bloom. So we get to see what that looks like. It is the only one, but there are other growths. There's a growth here that hasn't bloomed. That one has. So 1, 2. There's 2 or 3 that haven't bloomed, but we've definitely got a bud. So we will get to see the blooms on this one. And that one is not only a primary cross, but it actually occurs in the wild. That's what the X on the name is for. Yeah. So it's classed as a species, even though it's technically a hybrid, but it's found in the wild, so a natural hybrid. So that one's Lianum. And that one hasn't been repotted. I haven't got a clue what the roots are like, but it seems to be progressing if it's prepared to produce a spike, and the non-blooming ones are actually pushing on as well. So that's that one. And then we've got this tiny little one here. This doesn't have large blooms, but they are gorgeous to look at. That's Appletonianum. It's got another name which I believe might even be more popular. But this came from Spice Exotic. So you don't really get to choose your plant. You don't get to pick it up and look at it. You just hope that, a decent one has been chosen. And that has a bud. So we are going to get a bloom on that one. There's no sign of roots pushing to the edge of the pot. It's only got 2 fans, and the other one hasn't bloomed, and the latest one looks like it will. So that's that one. And then this one doesn't have a tag. The reason it doesn't, that one hasn't been repotted either. That's in whatever it came in. But I'm not in a rush to repot that because it looks okay, it smells okay, it probably hasn't been long in the pot. And it looks like it's just in bark. So it's not going to suffer to any great extent. So we've got 2 that haven't been repotted so far. Now this one has been repotted, I can tell by the fact it's in a clear pot. This one's got no tag because the name's too long, so I'll do a pop-up. I've still got no extensive root growth on this one, but the new growth itself is pushing on. It is progressing, so it is growing, and at some point that new growth will produce some blooms. Now this was bought in bloom and was a very expensive plant and was paid for mainly by some money that was donated to me when I went to the Wisley show. So otherwise I wouldn't have been able to afford that. This is quite rare. It's a species, well, you see by the pop-up, but it's a variety of that species that doesn't occur very often. So that's probably why it was a bit expensive, and in bloom as well. Multifloral one, this, so that's that one. And then Blackjack we know and love well, and the very first bloom is just going over. It's got a floppy hat. Now this, I'm told by others that have grown this for some time, that getting 2 blooms on a spike is not common. It is unusual. And to get 2 spikes within the same plant, I'm only assuming that's one plant. I believe it was because I repotted that and it didn't fall apart. So I think it is one plant. And to get 2 spikes at the same time, both with twin blooms, is very unusual. But this one will be down to 1 soon. This is the one with the magnificent root system. If I could get a root system like this on all my others, I'll be over the moon. We shall see. But this has had a massive growth spurt, And we have looked at this root system frequently, and it had growing tips all over the place. The growing tips are settling down now, there aren't so many, but it's nonetheless an extensive root system. Now the problem we've got with that is the two latest nice mature growths have bloomed. So now we're looking for what's coming next, and there's not a lot. Not a lot. That one's already bloomed. Oh, we've got one here, so there's one here pushing on, and that's it actually. So we've only got one more growth pushing on. I suspect that the fans that are currently blooming will push up a new growth once they've actually finished blooming. I suspect we will get more growths. So the next set of blooms are just going to be on this one fan, so hopefully we get two on the spike, but that remains to be seen. And then the last one over here, this is also a recent acquisition. I got this from Lawrence Hobbs at our show, so that was October. Again, a species, I didn't pay that for it. Shh. Not saying what I paid for it, but it wasn't that. Yeah, it's a variety of a species. And it looked quite a good plant. It's not brilliant on the root front. This is not me repotting this. I'll fiddle with that later. I've only got one hand free. Let's see if we can get this out with that hand. We do have some roots in the pot on this one. Otherwise I wouldn't have picked it up. It had a clear pot, you know, so if I couldn't see any roots I wouldn't have picked it up. But what we've got is, this was the one that was in bloom when I got it. So this has been open since I got the plant, which was October, second Saturday of October. So that's been in bloom since then. And the other bloom has just opened literally in the last couple of days. So you can see there is a distinct difference. If you look at the coloration on the back compared with the coloration on the back of the new bloom, it does get darker. I suspect this bloom will go over quite soon. It's been there a while. So we've got some roots. We've only got two fans, and both of them have now bloomed. But just starting is the next new growth. And this one's got roots. So the two that are in bloom are the two with the decent root systems that I can see. That doesn't mean the others haven't got root systems, but this one I've repotted myself and it hasn't got a lot of roots. This one I can't see any roots and I haven't repotted it, so I don't really know what's going on in the pot, but it's growing, so that'll do. That one I haven't got a clue what's going on in the pot. It's not a clear pot and I haven't repotted it yet. And then this one over here is I have repotted that and there aren't many roots on it, but it's growing. It's got quite a few new fans coming and hopefully they will push some roots out. So that's my sort of collection that I've got. This is quite a varied collection. We've got the deep coloured patterned leaves. We've got another one with patterned leaves that's very pale, and we've got a good smattering of species and primary hybrids in amongst this lot, as well as, you know, the slightly more complex hybrids. So that's my collection as it stands at the moment. Nothing is dying, nothing's going downhill, everything is at least stable or growing on, albeit slowly, but then that's what these do. That's partly why I was never that interested in them before, but it was not only the fact they were slow growing, they also died quite frequently in the other place. So I used to keep trying. I used to think they can't be that flipping difficult. People grow them on their blinking windowsills, you know, but they didn't grow well in the other place for whatever reason. So hopefully we'll do better with them this time round. But I will watch. I've made in my notes from my research today, I've actually marked each of these to say whether there is one of them that grows in humus as an epiphyte. So that one doesn't need a high pH specifically. I'm reasonably certain the rest do. So I might start mixing up a separate feed for these and actually put that feed in at a much higher pH. Or leave it, sort of do a normal feed and leave these till the end and then bump the pH up quite high before I actually feed those that prefer a more alkaline mix. And then obviously, as they're supposed to stay constantly moist, erring towards dry but never getting there, then obviously by starting with a high pH, they should do okay. On reflection, I've put some that prefer an alkaline mix in that. Bark, perlite and moss. Well, that's not going to be alkaline, is it? So next time we repot these ones that are supposed to be a bit more alkaline, we will remove the moss and not have any. We will manage without perhaps a bit of extra perlite, which is neutral, and the bark on its own is relatively neutral until it starts to break down, and then it starts to become more acidic. And you shouldn't ever let your media break down with paphs. They hate it. These are some of the few orchids that actually enjoy a repot into fresh media, providing you go careful and don't damage the existing root system. And I would suggest that even if you haven't got a very good root system, don't be frightened of the repot, because if you've got a poor root system and your media starts to go over, you'll take that root system down and then you haven't got any roots. Yeah? So yeah, don't leave them in their pots too long, they don't like it. I won't say that they don't like the disturbance, because I don't think it makes much difference to them, providing you go careful, don't bash the roots around, and go steady, because they snap quite easy. They're sort of thick furry things. They don't bend very well. They don't tolerate much bending without snapping, and quite a few of them don't branch very well. So once you break one, you've lost the potential growing tip. So go steady with them. I'm pleased with the ones I've got. As I said, the problems I see with the ones I've got is very expensive, already bloomed, was in bloom when I got it, and no decent root system yet. No problem with that one. No problem with that one. This one is growing and has a bud, but I don't see roots, but it doesn't need a repot, so it can remain in there while it gets some roots. This one's okay, I believe. The fact that it's growing okay, it's difficult to say. But knowing where it came from, it should be okay. Yeah. And then this one, my only worry with this one, which is growing quite a few new growths, they're coming out all over the place, so that's okay. No decent root system and very pale coloured leaves, which could have been some sort of deficiency. It could have been, don't forget, you can get deficiencies due to pH issues in the media, whereby the feed that you've used has got everything the orchid needs, but the orchid can't get at it because the pH is wrong, either far too high or more commonly far too low, which excludes some nutrients. And if you start excluding things like magnesium, which likes a reasonably high pH number, you know, nearer to the 7, if you're using a low pH all the time, down near the 6 or less, you're starting to exclude magnesium, and magnesium really is a big deal as far as photosynthesis is concerned, and that's what makes your plants green. It's the chlorophyll thingy going on. So, you know, if you start excluding some of the things like magnesium, you will get leaf issues. Right, so that's mine, and I will plod away with them. You can't stonk these up to get them growing like mad, because they just don't do it. They are plodders, they plod away. But as long as they're doing something rather than absolutely nothing, then something is going on. And during that something should be some new roots where there aren't many or any. I think this is the only one I'm dubious about, because this may be a recent division. so it might not have many roots at all. But there's no point in taking it out of the pot to look, because the media is okay. So it'll just have to stay there and hopefully get going, you know. And as I said, this one doesn't show signs of roots, and given the size of the plant, it should do. So I'm expecting roots from the new growths here. This one's unknown because I can't see what the hell's going on in the pot. But I'm not repotting this time of year. I would only do that as an emergency. This isn't an emergency. This media is not breaking down. It looks like pretty good bark. So we'll leave that one. And everything else has either been done or can wait. So there we go. I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Oh, I will have already done it. I was just going to say I'll put pop-ups with the names, and any that have bloomed, or I have pictures of the blooms, I'll put the pictures up. But you already know that because you've already seen them, haven't you? No point in doing them at the end. Duh. I was going to say more coffee, but it's a bit late in the day for that. Right, I will see you tomorrow for our Sunday chat. I will be doing some orchids tomorrow. I want to try and get back to that, having a proper subject in the Sunday chat rather than just wandering round and round aimlessly. So we're going to have a look at some actual orchids tomorrow, and see how they're getting on. A little bit like what we've done here, but obviously not for these, for a different type. And yeah, another set of orchids that I haven't had long. See you next time.